She's a gal. We stopped, we went shop to get stuff, you know, we stopped. We buy $10 scratch up ticket. He did, you know, every single one. All of us, every one of them. Turn the floor on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that. That's unfortunate.
That's fine.
And we're closing before the conference.
But they, you can ask.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate all the they do for us, the community.
You know, before we close it, you ask if there's any comments about the budget. You know,
All right.
that's perfectly, and they can actually raise their hand at any time during that time and ask.
All right.
All right, 7 o'clock, call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Anderson,
Present.
Bedifer,
Present.
Doobie,
Present.
Hummelbill,
Present.
Jones,
Here.
Ravish here, Kuchar,
Present.
all 7 present.
Great. Thank you. Just want to remind everybody for the comments, you have about 4 minutes. If you have anything to address with the board, including during the public hearing. Any additions, or deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have one deletion on the consent agenda. Item H is no longer be considered. On the additions part, on the non-consent, item D, middle high school parking lot repair. Item E, Linwood parking lot paving. And F, bus garage parking lot paving.
Okay. Any other additions or deletions?
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion? Support. Motion support. Any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Community comments. Anybody like to address the board? Anybody want to address the board? Thank you. At this time, we will open the public hearing related to the 2022-23 proposed budget. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. Other than that, we'll keep moving forward.
Do we need a motion to open up?
I'll move, we open up the public hearing.
Okay. We have motion or support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
I will begin my presentation in regards to the amendments for the 21-22 budget update and the adoption of the 22-23 budget. Looking at our general fund, we always have some things that we don't know going into the year and some things that change throughout the year. So in 21-22, we knew we were losing the Super Blend Foundation allowance, which was what held us harmless for our student loss. We did come in higher than expected on our foundation allowance, but we came in lower for our student loss than we expected. We received something called the Emergency Connectivity Fund Grant, which allowed technology to be able to purchase about $100,000 worth of Chromebooks, and it also put about $10,000 towards their student hotspots. We received the year's summer school funding for last year and this year's summer school, and our ESSER funds have kind of fluctuated throughout the year. It's kind of based on what is approved in the budget as we move forward. In 22-23, we know what we don't know. The state budget has not been accepted, and so we don't know our foundation allowance. We won't know our student count until count day in October next year. And we know that we have ESSER 2 funds available and ESSER 3 funds that at this point they haven't been designated and approved on all levels. So moving into this year's revenues, we amended in March, we're amending again now, and since then, we know that our CHIP grants, which is the grants we get from Saginaw Chippewa Tribe, came in higher than expected, so they're doing well, good for them, and we appreciate their support. We did not realize that the school would get the MCCA insurance refund that everyone got on their vehicles. So for every vehicle that we have insured, we received that. Transportation went up because at the end of the year, we were finally able to have field trips again for our students. In our state funding, we received a MIPSERS offset that we weren't expecting. We had to book the connectivity grant, and we also got approved in our ESSER 2 grant for the stipends that we recently paid out to our staff and for the PA system that will be put in at Central and the Academy. So that is the difference in the revenues, putting our expected revenues this year at about 14.7. In the expenditures, of course, with the CHIP grant, for every in we have an out. Same thing with the ECF grant, the COVID stipends. We also have a slight reduction in expenditures because we had some funds that were left unspent at the end of the year. We did see a large increase in fuel cost. In our capital outlays, which you will see a fairly decent increase for our district, we're looking at general fund capital expenditures to be about $688,000. In that, we were able to purchase 3 buses. We did the abatement and PA system at Linwood out of ESSER funds. We did the central chimney and the Linwood wall infill projects. We are currently finishing up on the high school gymnasium floor. Looks amazing. In ESSER 2 and the GSRP grant, we have the PA system approved, and we also have a GSRP playground. However, those funds will not be spent in this year because we were unable to get all of the vendors' stuff in order to be able to do that. We actually are still looking for a playground vendor. So they are approved, but they will not be spent. Looking at the capital transfer, of course, it's pending site review and the decisions that they make and bring to the board for adoption. But we are looking at the central ADA compliance updates that we have to do. We are looking at parking lot repair, which got added to tonight's agenda. We are potentially looking at security shields or window film for ballistics. And we have a few minimal things left in the soccer field, some fencing and some items that aren't currently covered. So we're looking at transferring those funds to be able to complete those projects. So at the end of this fiscal year, we are looking at an undesignated general fund balance of 1.9. That takes us into next year. So we're adopting the budget tonight for next year. We are looking at revenues of approximately 14.3. That includes the property tax being levied at all that we're allowed to levy. We are still currently awaiting the budget from the state. We are predicting an increase of $400 per student. That's based on the information that we're getting from the state, where they compare the governors, the executive branches, proposals, And so we feel safe with an increase of about $400 per student. We are predicting a loss of about 40 students. And we do have the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 items that are approved currently. Again, we do still have some funding, and that can go into next year and potentially the following year, so it won't all have to be spent right away. In our expenditure lines, we have, of course, our negotiated contractual changes with our unions and our staff. We are predicting benefit increases in insurance and retirement. We do have some retirement savings from some teachers and some support staff that have left, but we are replacing them, and we have also added some staffing. I believe we're adding a kindergarten teacher at the elementary, and we are adding an elective teacher here at the high school, middle school. The capital projects that we are looking at in this budget thus far is the PA system at Central and the Academy. We have some network switches and technology. We've approved the tractor that will not be delivered until next year, so it has to go on next year's budget. We have approved the district lighting project with Bach. We always like to put a bus purchase in. We know that buses that are being purchased new are up to 2 years out right now. So should a bus become available and an off lease from another school, we want to be able to grab that right away. And being that we spent all the money on the gym floor, we're also going to need a new mat system for that to protect the floor that we have in place. So at the end of next year, we are currently predicting a $2 million undesignated general fund fund balance. And so that is general fund. That is actually the most difficult one usually, but we are looking at food service to amend at the end of this year. We saw a lot of revenue come into food service this year that was unexpected. Sue was able to put the a la carte option back in, and that brought us a little more revenue than we predicted, although we knew that it was going to go up. Kids like to have that option. Then the state, as of last month, unexpectedly gave us something called the school breakfast. And that nearly doubled our state aid restricted funds. So it was a nice windfall, but unpredicted. In federal funds, we also got the PEDT administrative grant. If you guys recall, all the students got EDT cards. And according to how often they were here and when the school was virtual, and if they were virtual themselves, the school had to tell the state all of that throughout the process. So they came back this year and they said, you know, you've done a lot of work, so we're going to give you an administrative grant. They also saw the cost of the supply chain going up, so they gave us a supply chain grant. What our main increase is this reimbursement went up nearly $2 per claim. We are not anticipating that going into next year, although we do think that it will be increased more than it has been in the past. But that was a huge windfall for the district. And Sue also put in and received some equipment grants, and we got the funding this year, but we can't expend we can't buy the equipment until next year, so we'll see it on next year's budget. Expenditures basically went up by product cost. So the supply chain is really tight, things are really expensive, they're hard to get, we're having to get things that we don't normally get to be able to stay within our menus. So at the end of the day, we are predicting a $300,000 fund balance in this program. The state says that we cannot exceed 3 months of expenditures. So we're currently working with our auditors, but we think we're going to be at that threshold. We think we're going to have exceeded the 3 months worth of expenditures. If that happens, the state will require us to do what's called a spend down plan. So they make us tell them how we're going to spend down and ensure that we get below the 3 months of expenditures. It's possible we'll be right at that line, depending on how we actually play out at the end of the year. But I would not be surprised to see that happen. Lots of schools had it happen a year ago when claims were so high and they were still serving on a regular basis outside of like we did during COVID. So it's not a huge deal, but it is something that adds more monitoring. And so when you look at next year's budget, you will see that we have already put into place that spend down plan. So we've reduced some of our funding that's one time. We decreased the reimbursement rates slightly. Again, we don't know what that amount will be, but we did bring that down a little bit to account. And the district will be staying a CEP district, which is the program that allows us to continue to feed all of our students for free regardless of their household income. So we will be staying CEP, and we are not expected to have to supplement any of those funds from the general fund next year. We did increase our expenditures by the negotiated salary and benefit increases. We are continuing to predict high supply chain costs. And we have capital expenditures for the grants that Sue received and the spend down plan. She has been and will continue to look for a replacement truck for the delivery because that is a need for us, and it will be, it's allowable under the spend down plan if we're required to be on one. So at the end of next year, we predict that we will be at 188,000, which will keep us within our 3 months of expenditures and will be within regulation. Next, we have the Student Activity Fund. The Student Activity Fund is where we do all of our fundraising and donations, and we have some sports activity accounts. These are basically driven by what they are. The GASB 84, which is the governmental accounting standard, requires that this be a special revenue. When you have a special revenue, the board is required to accept a budget for it, but it is totally driven by the fundraisers, the events, the field trips, the stuff that we do for our students. So this year, on revenues, we are estimating that we brought in about 195,000. We expended about 180. That number usually goes up, but our field trips and events kind of started late in the year. So next year, I think we'll see them right from the beginning of the year. And it's, for the most part, it's a stay flat budget. Our ending committed fund balance, which means it has strings attached. It has to be spent on what it was fundraised for, donated for, is predicted to be about $237,000. Moving into the following year, we just ran those numbers very similar. And we are predicting an ending committed fund balance of $212,000. I would like to note that because it is a special fund owned by the district, that we must follow the unallowable expenditure rule. Michigan Constitution says that you cannot spend that money on gifts. Golf fees, aside from golf expenditures for the golfing program, the students that it was raised for, food and beverage that is not for the students, the student organizations, or available to the public also. You cannot buy flowers for the sick and departed. You cannot do contributions and donations outside of what they're calling the educational nexus. So if our students raise money to support a fellow student that's house burnt down, or they're raising money for St. Jude's Hospital, that is considered part of the educational nexus because it was an educational tool to teach the kids how to support their community. But you can't just arbitrarily decide we are going to donate a certain amount of money to, it has to be part of the education process. Are there any questions at this time?
I do. You're expecting a 40 student loss. What was our student losses? I asked that once before, but we didn't have the plan.
Around 7, close to 70.
67, so.
I think, yeah, because I think we budgeted 75 and it came in around 7. We're noticing a little bit of our senior class wasn't very big this year. And, our kindergarten right now is probably gonna exceed that size, but that attrition is coming in the middle too. As far as little kids, virtual, you name it. We're seeing, but we're not gonna lose that right off the bat, 30 from kindergarten, our seniors being bigger than, so I think hopefully it'll be a smaller loss.
Small, you're figuring 40, but you're hoping for less than that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda, pay the bills at $942,723.97.
Motion support, any discussion? Roll call.
Hazeberg.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Doobie.
Yes.
Palmville.
Yes.
Rabish, yes. Kuchar,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. Motion carries. Communication, Mr. View.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchar. Tried to make this quick tonight. Summer hours, just want to let the public know and board members know that during the month of July, the first part of August, we'll be on a 4-day week. So on Fridays, there won't be anybody in the offices, so just a heads up. We've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
We used to do it a while back, and then all of a sudden, we switched because of certain obstacles, but I think we've got those taken, so it's nice to have those Fridays off, where our staff were coming in early and staying a little bit later. Any questions about the hours? Again, it just, kind of want to get it out there that people come to the buildings will know that there's no one there. Summer school, right now we're looking at about 80 students in the elementary, about 40-ish in the middle high school, and 32 in credit recovery. So good numbers this year. I do want to got a lot of positive feedback again for the transportation, because we're transporting the students this summer. And Ms. Stratford has mentioned a couple times that really has been a benefit for that program. And it's the last, we're coming upon the last week, right? So we'll be testing to see any growth that the students have achieved, and I think it was a good summer. Excited about knocking down some of that learning loss, I guess, so to speak, so we can get those students.
How's the attendance been?
Same kids every day. It's been real good for us.
They haven't.
Transportation probably helps with that.
Oh, you.
Well, I'm sure it does. That's why I asked the question. To see if it did help the attendance.
Any questions on summer school? All right, teacher sub rates. In the consent agenda, you approved the ESS Will subcontract. That will increase our sub rates for teachers on a daily basis to $120 a day. And that puts us in line with all Bay County schools. So that would be something that we talked about, budget committee talked, superintendents discussed it. So that puts us up from last year. And again, there's nobody, I think Standish is still 120. Standish might be 120. I'm not sure what Standish is.
They went up.
Yeah, but they're not in the Bay County, so to speak, but they're in our ISD, but all Bay County schools agreed on 120. All right, that's all I have for you tonight.
That was very quick.
I can make stuff up.
No, we're good. We'll just keep on going. Reports from other administrative staff? Chris, I think we've heard enough. Ooh. Anybody else? All right. Board committees, again, budget committee met. The only thing besides what Chris pretty much went through is that we did go through the non-affiliated contract and wages. And that was pretty straightforward, and we have good people. We want to retain them, and so I think we accomplished that. Anything else to add?
Policy committee, we were kind of waiting before we started the policy committee meetings. I know we talked about that a few times because our attorney's reviewing some changes that we're doing in the handbook. We want to wait to get his feedback. And then, once we have that, then we'll schedule a meeting to go over that and all the other things that we've been talking about for the meeting policy. So probably before the end of July, I think.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Nicole. I've been talking with our attorney, he has been working with the high school administration on handbooks. So he's looking at, we wanna meet one time, so when those changes come, we can also address some of the other policy changes that were brought to our attention at meetings. So that'll be coming up, I'm thinking early, well, we have a board meeting on the 25th, we're probably gonna have to have a special board meeting potentially if we don't have it for some other reason to get 2 meetings in. So we may have to have a short special meeting at the end of July in order to get the 2 readings in, or maybe early August, depending on when we can get that policy committee scheduled.
Okay. All right, is there any other discussion on the public hearing? Would you like to comment?
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public hearing on the budget.
We have a motion to close the public hearing. Can we support? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. On to the non-consent agenda. Hey,
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the amended 2021, 2022 final amended budget.
Support.
a motion support. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Badiford,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Dubé,
Yes.
Palmville,
Yes.
Rabish, yes, Kuchar,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. B,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the 2022, 2023 proposed budget.
Support.
okay, motion support. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Badiford,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Dubé,
Yes.
Palmville,
Yes.
Rabish, yes, Kuchar,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. Motion carries. Item C, the superintendent evaluation. You should have, when you arrived, had a copy of the evaluation that I compiled. Overall score from Mr. View, not surprising in my opinion. On a 4-point scale, he scored 93% or a 3.72 for highly effective. The note for that is Mike is a great leader, fantastic representative for our district. He is professional, personal, knowledgeable, and seeks success for others. He has a true passion for education in our community. His efforts and success are well appreciated. There are 5 domains within this evaluation tool. The first is achievement, and that is basically based off the student growth and standardized test scores. In that, you saw the documentation that he provided for that, where the majority, actually all the scores fell into an effective range for that. So on a 4-point scale, you got 3.36, which is an effective rating. And one of the comments was that he was just, Mr. B is quick to respond when a gap is found. The next part was leadership. This was his highest score of 3.84 out of the 4-point scale, highly effective. And just Mike maintains high standards and upholds school policies. This has to do with being, knowledgeable, honest, fair, strategic, ethical, and just kind of guiding the district through its missions, its goals, and its values. And I would point out that he was nearly unanimous in all 8 of those characteristics as far as being highly effective. So you are an outstanding leader, Mike, and we really appreciate that. The third element was systems alignment. He scored highly effective in that too, at a 3.72. Some of the comments were he understands the value of systems and has surrounded himself with a great staff to help him align, improve, and implement the elements of this domain. So good job surrounding yourself with good people, Mike. They make you look good. process was another one, that was highly effective. This measures his relationships within the school system itself and also within the community. He excels at many of these domain characteristics, but specifically in his board relations and his media relations, those were both unanimously highly effective. So, one of the comments is that you're just highly effective, highly effective ability to work with all stakeholders. So, students, parents, our politicians in Lansing. So, you have a good rapport with most people. So, good job. And the last part was capacity building. Again, he scored high on this one, 3.76 out of 4. Again, highly effective. And just some of the comments were he's a true asset to our district, and that he consistently represents the school within our community. So, Mike, you do an outstanding job. I don't know how many times you've been highly effective, but I know it's more than that. So, just keep up the good work and keep surrounding yourself with good people.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the board for their support. It's been, as you know, a couple trying years, and I wouldn't want to spend through those years without with the board like I have. I mean, the vision you've given me and I guess the direction has really made my job easier. So when it comes to evaluation time, I think it's we can see if we're on the same page. I know the board amongst yourselves are on the same page. I know there's times when we don't always agree, but I think that makes the job of any superintendent very easy when you're not having to referee your board. So hats off to our board. My team, as you said, I surround myself with good people. It's been outstanding as far as the people that I've worked with. Our parents have been, they're vocal. Some of them have, and it's good that we get that feedback, like our board has said lately. To get people involved, it's helped us respond. So I think, this has been really a year. I think we've had a lot of give and take, a lot of input. And, again, I can't say enough about the board and all my staff as far as kind of getting through this and doing it in person and getting a quality education for our students.
Thank you. Anybody have questions on this evaluation at all? Thank you for your feedback on that. Makes compiling it a lot easier. If not, we need a motion to accept it.
So moved.
Support.
Support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, motion carries. And item D.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the bid from Ideal Asphalt seal coating for the parking lot repair at the middle school, high school. And the PAA at a cost not to exceed $57,750 and pending site committee review.
Motion support, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bedifer,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Dubé,
Yes.
Palmville,
Yes.
Rabish, yes, Kuchar,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you, motion carries. And item E.
Make a motion, we approve the Linwood parking lot paving with the bid from Sekovic and Sons for a cost not to exceed $51,500. Again, pending site committee review.
Motion and support, any discussion? Again, roll call, please.
Bedifer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Dubé,
Yes.
Palmville,
Yes.
Rabish, yes, Kuchar,
Yes.
7-0.
Motion carries, thank you. And item F.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the bus barn parking lot paving from Sekovic and Sons for a bid not to exceed $205,000. Again, pending site committee review.
Okay, motion and support. Any discussion? Roll call one more time, please.
Bedifer,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Dubé,
Yes.
Palmville,
Yes.
Rabish, yes, Kuchar,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you, motion carries. Public comments, anybody like to address the board? Yes, sir.
Craig Barr, treasurer of the Pinconning Linwood Area Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to thank the district, Mr. Buell, the administrators that came over to help us set up for the Cheestown Festival. We had the maintenance crew loaned us a number of items and helped us do a little bit of setup. The food service staff helped set up and serve the macaroni and cheese dinner. We did have a number of students that volunteered on their own at various times during the festival. Couldn't have done it without you. One thing we would like to remind the board is that I spoke early in the school year about reminding the students that there is still a volunteer hour requirement in the handbook, unless it's been edited out for next year. They number of the students that I spoke to were not aware of it or claimed not to be aware of it. I think that needs to be pretty forcefully pushed on them that, hey, this is something that you need to do before the last month of your senior year. Obviously the sophomores, the juniors for next year, they haven't done this for 2 years.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Woodruff did put it in our, I know that we had talked.
But yeah, we'll definitely keep on it, because they do need to get those hours, so
It'd be a good idea to
policy's
make,
looking at it.
like when they come for orientation next year.
Yeah.
It's usually her.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion items? I'm sorry, pull the comment. Seeing none, we'll go into discussion items from the board.
Move to adjourn.
Motion support, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned, thank you.
This budget meeting ever.
Yeah.
And I